An ESPN analyst named OG Anunoby is a potential frontrunner for Defensive Player of the Year, so we'll break down the actual odds of him winning DPOY as well as who he's competing with against across the NBA. Additionally, we have an injury update to report on in this video as Precious Achiuwa. We got some insight as to when he will return as well as some other nagging injuries involving the Toronto Raptors and a whole bunch more. So without further ado, let's jump straight into it. Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest, breaking down the latest Toronto Raptors news. And folks, if you guys have been enjoying the videos, enjoying the daily Raptors coverage, definitely hit that subscribe button. It means the world to us. But let's dive into the news. And the first thing we're taking a look at is an ESPN analyst calling OG Anunoby a potential frontrunner for Defensive Player of the Year. Now, a lot of Raptors fans have been speaking out about how OG Anunoby has been amazing this season, especially on the defensive end of the court. And we broke down the last video. He's been clamping up superstar after superstar, whether it be Donovan Mitchell, played a solid defensive job on Luka Doncic. He kept DeJounte Murray to like 5 points, right? OG Anunoby has been a clamp god recently, and that's raised his profile in terms of the Defensive Player of the Year race. And an ESPN analyst, Zach Lowe, came out on his podcast and essentially recited that sentiment. Now, Zach has been tooting OG's horn for a while now. He came into the season saying that it's a bad look that OG was only ranked in the 70s in terms of ESPN's rankings, in terms of top 100 guys. But he came out on his podcast and essentially said that he might be a front runner for Defensive Player of the Year right now, while giving praise in terms of his growth on that end of the court in his podcast. Now, this is something sentiment Raptors fans have been talking about for the last few weeks, and I dove into the rankings, the race, what's going on, and it does seem like OG has a serious possibility of winning this award. It's not just, biased Raptors fans trying to speak into existence. Because if you look at the betting odds right now, while he's not at the top, OG Anunoby's currently third. He's ahead of Evan Mobley, Rudy Gobert, Bam Adebayo, but the two players he's behind are a couple of the Milwaukee Bucks, and currently leading the way at plus 200 is Brook Lopez, and just behind him is Giannis Antetokounmpo, another guy that's won Defensive Player of the Year in the past at plus 350, but just behind him at plus 600 is OG Anunoby. And, while, the betting odds, they, not perfect, they're not always the most accurate things, I think this is probably the right position for OG Anunoby to be, at least right now, in terms of defensive betting odds. Because while OG Anunoby was averaging like a blazing 4 steals a game to start off the season, those numbers have come down just a little bit, come out this year in the mid-2s. But Brook Lopez especially is the main competition for OG Anunoby right now, as he has been a monster coming back from back surgery, and the Milwaukee Bucks continue to have one of the best defenses in the league. That's why there's 2 Milwaukee Bucks ahead of OG Anunoby in this rankings right now. I mean, if you look at the stats, if you look at, especially the advanced numbers for OG Anunoby, his defensive box plus minus is at a 1.1. Currently, he has 1.1 defensive win shares for the season. And, that's very, very good. That's amazing, especially early in the season for a guy in OG Anunoby playing the wings and doing that sort of stuff. It's substantially behind Brook Lopez. Now, the advanced stats tend to favor big men in terms of how they glorify their defense abilities, but Brook Lopez's DPBM is 2.2 right now, and in terms of defensive win shares, just edges out OG Anunoby at 1.2, but, that's not the only thing. The advanced stats, obviously, you can use whatever you want. I always say that on podcasts. You can sort of break out whatever advanced stats you want to fit your narratives, but Brook Lopez has really been the anchor for the Brooklyn Nets. The Milwaukee Bucks defense this season. He's averaging 2.9 blocks per game and has just been a monster this year. So while I think OG Anunoby can certainly get to that DPOY front runner, probably needs to, the Raptors firstly need to just improve their team defense, and with all of the injuries we've sustained to start off the year, it's impressive we're already where we're at, but, rarely does the Defensive Player of the Year go to wing players, but if OG Anunoby maintains what he's been doing, and especially the past 2 weeks on the defensive end, those advanced stats, those numbers will continue to pick up, right? His steals, I guess, have been going down a little bit, but it was an unsustainable start. Now he's at 2.4. There's a point where he's averaging 4 steals a game, right? But, OG Anunoby, if he continues to clamp superstars and the Raptors can up their team defense, which they should when injuries start going down, then I think that's a legitimate case for OG Anunoby to win DPOY. But what do you guys think? Do you think OG will win DPOY? Let me know in the comment section below. But one guy that will certainly help the Toronto Raptors Toronto Raptors defense is Precious Achiuwa. We have an injury report to update on for tonight's game versus the Pelicans, as well as just Precious Achiuwa in general. And we'll break down just for the game against the Pelicans tonight, as according to Eric Kareen, Achiuwa and Porter remain out versus New Orleans. Champagnie and Harper down with the Raptors 9:05, as well as in tonight's action, we have CJ McCollum out for the New Orleans Pelicans. So a Raptor killer will be sidelined for the game tonight. But we got a little insight as well as in terms of Precious Achiuwa's injury situation. Now, there was a lot of high expectations for Precious Achiuwa coming into this season. Struggled a little bit coming out of the gate, and then unfortunately went down with that foot injury he's been dealing with. But it's come out that the Raptors provide an updated timeline in Precious Achiuwa, as he is still, quote, weeks away. The Toronto Raptors are not expecting Precious Achiuwa back for at least 2 to 3 more weeks as he recovers from his ankle injury. So, we've been sort of reporting there's been more news coming out in terms of whether Precious Achiuwa will be in the lineup or not for recent games, but unfortunately it's still going to be a few weeks till we see him back onto the court. So hopefully he has a speedy recovery. I couldn't find any updates on terms of Otto Porter Jr., but, even it's crazy how we have 2 key rotation pieces out of the lineup right now, and when we looked at the last game, it feels like we're fully healthy. But once we get Precious Achiuwa and Otto Porter Jr. back into the lineup, we'll really see how this Raptors team can come together and hopefully crush some of the top teams in the NBA. But the next thing we're taking a look at is an ugly stat regarding the Toronto Raptors shooting this season. And the Raptors, a big question for this team coming into the year was, would we be able to hit enough three-point shots? And with the struggles of the star boy, Gary Trent Jr., right, our three-point shooting, especially after, the first 2.5 weeks of the season, has fallen a bit off a cliff. When we started off this year, actually, we were pretty hot from behind the three-point line. It's something we addressed on podcasts. Is this sustainable? But it doesn't really seem like it was, at least from the start of the year, especially with Gary Trent Jr. struggling and Pascal Siakam going down with injury because he gets so many Raptors, so many open looks. But if you look at this jump shooting stat in terms of by team, and the points per jump shot for the 2022-2023 season, the Celtics, you can see the Nets, the Warriors, the Nuggets, some good teams there at the front of that list on the right side, right? But third worst in the NBA, down there with the LA Lakers and the Charlotte Hornets, is the Toronto Raptors. We're even behind the Miami Heat, who have been brutal shooting the basketball this season. And, the Raptors are a squad. We have some shooters on our team, as mentioned. Fred VanVleet, Gary Trent Jr., OG Anunoby's been actually amazing from behind the three-point line. Scotty Barnes has been better. Pascal Siakam is key, whether he's shooting it or just creating for others. We have shooters on this team, but unfortunately, they just haven't been in the lineup consistently. So I think our numbers are a bit skewed. They're indicating we're a little bit worse than we actually are, but it's definitely an area to be on the lookout for, especially in the next couple of weeks as we get people back healthy, to see how the Raptors actually are as a jump shooting team. Because early in the season, we were actually pretty good from behind the three-point line. A couple players underperforming, as mentioned. Gary Trent Jr., Chris Boucher has been struggling behind the three-point line, even though he's been great. And Juancho Hernangomez, been amazing all around, but hasn't been that much of a high volume three-point shooter. We get some more of our, traditionally good three-point shooters hitting a little bit more. The Raptors should be fine on that front, but we'll see what ends up happening, especially if Otto Porter Jr. can come back to the lineup soon. But the final thing we're talking about, speaking of Raptor shooters, or former Raptor shooters, is Norman Powell went absolutely nuclear in a game for his new team, the LA Clippers, recently, and I just want to show some love to the Norm God because he's been having an up and down season this year. If you look at his stats for the year, they're not too hot. They're not 15 points per game, 2 rebounds. He's averaged about 20 the time we traded him. The percentages have actually gone back up because they were looking horrible a few weeks ago, but 46% from the field, 38% from the three-point line. But the man went absolutely bonkers in a recent game for the LA Clippers, playing the Portland Trailblazers last night. Norm Powell had 32 points, but he had 22 points in the fourth quarter and really single-handedly won the LA Clippers that game, brought him back in it. So, when former Raptors legends, and in this picture, if you look really close, you can still see the Raptors logo tattooed on his arm, the championship trophy. But when former Raptors, especially level ones like Norman Powell, have big games like this, you gotta show some love. So shout out to the Norm God, but shout out to all you guys for making this far. Again, if you enjoyed the video, definitely hit that subscribe button. You guys are the best. I'm signing out. Cheers.